attending this session. My name is Oussema. My partner and co-author is Adonis. He couldn't join us today, unfortunately. So our work is entitled Creating VR Content for Training Purposes. Um, this is the outline of our presentation, so a little theoretical background. Then we're going to talk about planning for a VR training, creating VR content, and finally a conclusion. So first of all, just a little word about me and my co-author. I'm Tunisian. I have a background in linguistics and education. I've taught courses, language courses, and leadership courses. I've worked on several projects, including VR or other technologies. My co-author, Adonis Durado, is Filipino. He has a background in communication and media arts, and he teaches courses such as editorial illustration, informational graphics. And now a word about the project. So at Ohio University, we have a Grid Lab. It's the Game Research and Immersive Design Lab. This lab produces cine VR experiences in law enforcement and healthcare. It works on several projects, and one of the fields that it works on is VR. So in 2023, Ohio Attorney General approached this Grid Lab, and they asked us to produce cine VR training for police officers. This is how it works. Every once in a while, a client approaches, and we launch a new project. So once we had this idea in hand, the George Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Services, all the logos are on the right side of the screen. So this school was tasked with conducting a needs assessment and curriculum design. This is what they came up with. This is a tentative plan for this project. A few things have changed since then. For instance, the project is now called Ohio 360 instead of Officer 360. And clearly we are still in year one. So this is just the plan they drew for this project. And once they had this done, that's where Adonis and I intervened. So some theoretical background, and let's define what is VR training. Well, it's a virtual experience that replicates the real world, allowing trainees to fully engage in a 360-degree interactive setting through head-mounted gear, embedded displays. So it's training in the traditional sense of the word. So the act of teaching or learning a particular skill or type of behavior, except it's done in virtual reality, which is a 360 interactive setting. There are multiple types of VR training. First of all, you can either teach soft skills. I'm sure you're all familiar with what those are, such as communication. Hard skills include more manual labor. And there's also video-based VR, which is a Cine VR, which is what you record with a traditional camera. And then we have computer-generated graphics. So computer-generated like animation. So this is how Adonis and I wanted to share this project with the world. We did a literature review of VR training in general, and we're using this particular project, as a case study and action research, because we're both also students of instructional technology, pursuing the same PhD program. So we did a little research, and it turns out that traditional training is expensive. It takes a long time. It requires you to be attending at a specific time and place. However, VR training is low cost. It takes a shorter time, It's more flexible. You can do it at your convenience, and it's safer because it's done in the virtual world, unlike traditional training, which is done in real scenarios where police officers and other people can be in danger. So VR training seeks to solve the problems that come with traditional training. And uh, the first step for designing training is to come up with a goal statement. And in this case, the goal statement is police officers will become familiarized with decision making and de-escalation techniques that they can later apply in various real life scenarios. And this will be achieved through a library, uh, a collection of highly realistic, immersive cine VR experiences. So multiple episodes about multiple topics will be prepared and compiled into a library. This is the instructional strategy. I'm not going to go through it one by one, but you can see that one of the main points is the fact that uh, these CineVR episodes or this library is going to serve more like a stimulus or for purpose of demonstration. It will be accompanied with in-person training. Um, it will also be accompanied with discussions. There will be feedback provided by a, a supervisor, and there will be testing done to measure retention. And next, I'm going to talk about the actual process for creating VR content. So the first step is scenario exploration and script writing. Before you write any script, you have to understand what you're writing about. We're not really experts about police work. We're only instructional designers, so we have to do our research. In fact, we consulted with many uh, experts from multiple fields like law enforcement, law, uh, psychology, and once you do all of that, we decided to tackle these six topics as a first step. Um, so we've got six episodes. One of them is about suicide attempts, domestic violence, violence at high schools, mental health and well-being. Uh, and the following step was to write these scenarios for these episodes. And it was a whole team. Adonis and I contributed, but it's not just us. So just a little idea about what script writing in VR is like. Usually script for VR is longer than script for traditional footage. And that's because in VR, you have to stage directions in 360. Unlike in traditional cinema, you just have to cover a single frame. Uh, in VR, a lot of things are happening at the same time. So this is an extract from this episode about domestic violence. In this extract, you can see that there are two conversations taking place. One of the police officers is talking to the husband in the scenario, and the other police officer is talking to his wife in the next room. And in 360, I will share these screenshots. In 360, you are capable of seeing both conversations. So if you look this way, you'll see that dialogue, and if you look that way, you will see the other conversation taking place simultaneously. And not only that, but the direction at which you're looking should sound louder and clearer, the same way you do it in real life. Um, Also in VR, we have to take one more thing into consideration, which is the fact that transition and editing is different, let's say, from traditional 2D footage. And that's because 2D has been around for a long time. VR is still recent. There are very little resources on VR. With 2D, you can just download templates and use them. However, with VR, you're learning on the go. And it's very important to make the experience seamless. Otherwise, it will become less immersive, which is counterintuitive with using VR. And doing that can be challenging. For example, in VR, you shouldn't move the camera very often, or if at all. In VR, it's also difficult to transition between one scene to the next because traditional transitions don't really fit well with 360 footage. So we had to do a lot of experimentation before filming. After writing the script, we had to do experiments to figure out how we're actually going to produce this footage. So this is a strip of frames from a transition experiment where a police officer is supposed to be chasing a suspect. And this is one of those scenes that are challenging because, like I said, you cannot have the camera moving, and if you just jump from one spot to the other, it's just not smooth. So we have to do experiments to understand how we're going to film this on the day of. Otherwise, it's going to take you longer. It's going to cost you more money because you'll have the crew stay there longer, and you might end up with footage which is not really usable. So experimenting in VR is very, very important. Another element of editing VR footage. So this is post-production. You've got pre-production, production, and post-production. Editing occurs in post-production. We decided to add graphics and overlays to the footage. For example, the photo on the left side is of a girl which is contemplating suicide, and we decided to add graphics that tell the police officer which feelings she's experimenting. And it also tells the police officer which technique they should approach in that situation. So inquiring or comforting or just talking. On the left side, sorry, on the right side, you can see another screenshot from a different episode. In this case, this woman is suffering from a trauma or a mental health condition. So when the police officer enters the scene, we added clues on what they should be paying attention to. Things such as sharp objects, medication. Uh, this serves as uh, training on how to read the scene. So to conclude, like I said, camera setup in VR can be challenging. You have to take the whole environment, the whole stage into consideration. Immersive audio is one more thing. When you record audio in VR, you have to consider the fact that wherever the user looks, the sound has to match the footage. Storytelling, like I said, script writing, you have to add more details. Um, File size and playback, 360 footage takes more space than 2D footage. Therefore, you need more powerful devices and more powerful software to edit it. And there aren't many resources available, so a lot of times you are literally inventing new transitions or techniques. So filming in VR can be also more expensive. However, on the long run, you can use that training multiple times, and uh, it will become beneficial and more economic on the long run. And finally, a few recommendations. It's very important to have experts from various fields. Um, as an instructional designer or a script writer, well, nobody knows how to do anything. So you have to have a team, including many experts. And this team has to be very communicative because a lot of times things can change really fast, and communication is key to keep things going. We have to be very flexible and adaptable. For example, in one of the episodes, we were going to film in a specific location, and then we learned that it's not possible to actually film there. So we had to change the whole location, and just have to be prepared for these scenarios. And finally, experimenting saves resources and ensures quality. The more experiments you conduct, the more confident you're going to be on the day of filming, and the better footage you will end up with in in editing, in post-production. And it's very important to do these experiments. In future work, so in other projects, we would like to experiment with augmented and mixed reality. This is where you'd still be able to see the environment around you, but with overlays and graphics. So, for example, I would see other people or other objects in this room. Haptic feedback is also something we want to experiment with. So maybe have the police officers hold controllers or accessories. Interactive storytelling. So in the sense that you can engage with the content and trigger events like a video game. All right. Our paper is actually has been published in the International Journal of Technology and Education. That's the link for it, and I would love to answer any of your questions. Feel free to contact me on that email.